Do you know where you're going to? Do you like the things that life is showing you? Where are you going to? Do you know? Do you get what you're hoping for? When you look behind you, there's no open door. What are you hoping for? Do you know? I suspect that some of you now have a tune going through your mind. These are the first words of the song, Do You Know?, which was the theme song for the movie Mahogany, came out in 1975, starred Diana Ross. The song did a lot better than the movie, if I remember correctly. But as I was preparing the message, reviewing the notes, this song came to mind. Do you know where you're going to? Do you know what you're hoping for? And the question behind it, too, is where is your purpose rooted? This last line from the Apostles' Creed, I believe in the resurrection of the body and the life everlasting, speaks to that purpose of life, where we are and where we are going. I want to look at what it meant to those who first affirmed it when it became part of the Creed, and for what it means for us today. Very simply, for those that first said it, it affirmed their belief in a resurrection, in a life everlasting, that there was something beyond this. There was belief among several groups, believed in an afterlife. Some did not. There was the tradition of an everlasting life, a resurrection in the Jewish community. That's why we looked at the passage where Martha and Mary, they're having that conversation with Jesus about their brother Lazarus. And a realization that one day something will happen. Jesus affirming that he is the resurrection and the life. There's an interesting extra, though, added in the Christians, a belief that physical bodies, that there would be a physical resurrection as well. Now, during my preparation for this, I read the sermon given by one pastor, and I watched the YouTube video of another pastor and looked at how they approached it. 1 Corinthians 15 is a good go-to section where Paul speaks about the resurrection and our physical bodies, what they will be like. Now, some have seen this as literally physical bodies, like what we have here. Now, Texas historians, I'd love to get your feedback on this to let me know if this phenomenon I'm about to describe is true here in Texas. But if you go back to the old cemetery in North Carolina, in Virginia, you will notice that all the graves, their people are buried so that they are facing east. The idea that when Christ returned in the resurrection of the body, that they would pop up and they would be facing Jerusalem. I remember doing some old research, old family, some years ago, some old family records. And it found a cemetery, a church cemetery, where some ancestors were buried. And so I went to discover it. And I remember getting to the parking lot and walking to the cemetery. The church was behind me. And I thought, I can't see any names on the graves. And then, because they're all facing east. And I'm coming from the west. Now, I knew that my ancestors would have been among the first people buried there. And so I just walked all the way to the end and then worked my way back to find their graves. Again, wandering in the woods or in a country road, you see an old cemetery in North Carolina, South Carolina, Virginia. It's facing east. Now, while Paul talks about, though, a physical resurrection, he says it's probably not exactly like we think of it. And he gives kind of the illustration. I'm going to give the illustration. He points out, we're here, and it's going to be something new and different. Think about the acorn. That becomes the oak tree. Think about the seeds that you have planted that have become strawberries or blueberries or corn. They're both connected and yet very different. He says there is a physical resurrection. Something will happen. God will make it possible. I give you an idea, but we don't know exactly what it's going to be like. Now, when Paul was speaking in Athens, that section that's been read every week that we've looked at the Apostles' Creed, when he spoke at Athens about the resurrection, he got 3 responses. One group mocked. One group said, we'll hear more of what you had to say. And one group believed. And when we present the claims of Christ to people today, those are the 3 responses we generally get. One group will simply reject. One group will say, well, you've given me something to think about. Seriously or not seriously, we don't know, but they've at least said there's something there I must ponder. And some will believe. Well, what does this mean for us today? It means there's hope, and it means that the physical matters, that it's valued enough that a type of resurrection will take place. Our ultimate destinies are not just spiritual, there is a physical dimension as well. We are rooted in eternity. And because the physical matters, even then, it matters now today. For those who take great passion in causes or issues that are economic or ecological or justice related, this gives them hope for going forward. It gives us all hope for going forward in what we do and what we're about. I think of a conversation between 2 women. One was named Jane, and she had basically a faith renewal, a spiritual renewal. And she's talking with her friend Joan. Now, Joan and Jane are both active in some causes. And Joan asks, so, are you giving up on these issues? And Jane said, no, this gives me more power to take on those causes with you, because there's something bigger and larger taking place. This gives us hope looking towards the future. And when I think of hope, I think of a church window. I hope you've enjoyed these last several Sundays, as each Sunday we have featured a different window or set of windows for the prelude and the postlude. My earliest memories of church windows are at First Presbyterian in Charlotte. And quite frankly, when you're 7 and 8 and you really can't follow the sermon, the windows were a good distraction. I was quiet and would just look at each window and kind of make up a story with it. I did not know the story behind the characters, except for one window. The window that was up by the pulpit area. And Reverend Topping, who was the associate pastor, had spoken to a group of us, and I'm not really sure the whole setting as to why, but there was a group of us, and he pointed out one window. It's a young woman. Her ankle, she's chained to a wall. And she is reaching up her hand into a dark cloud. Above the cloud is a bright star. And he said, that is hope, chained to the wall, looking for the light through darkness. And there's confidence in her voice, in her face, in the sense that she will eventually find that light. That image sticks with me. And this resurrection of the body and the life everlasting gives us that hope. A hope for a future that's bigger than our present circumstances. You see, our hope matters very much. As I said, I looked at 2 sermons of pastors, and one in particular, I want to give him credit, camped on the idea of the hope, the direction that we had. I mean, he said, in what do you place your hope? He said, hope is the engine that drives your car. What is your engine? Is it your network, your professional network? Is it your career, your finances, your education? There are many things in which we place hope. And to a degree, that's all well and good. But what is your ultimate hope? These other ones will fail at times. What will drive you? What hope will drive you Let the hope that is eternal drive you. It's been quite a journey going through the Apostles' Creed these last several weeks. I found more material there than I could handle for this go-round, and it just means in 2022 or 23, we're going to have another series. It begins very big picture, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, but each has a connection to us today. From there it talks about the Holy Catholic Church, the communion of saints. It's about a community, large and small in particular, to which we're a part. It speaks of the forgiveness of sins. We have failed, we have fallen short, but there's a way to go forward in Jesus Christ. And there is a resurrection, a hope and a future, a place to go. Do you know where you're going to? Do you know what you're hoping for? Thanks to the resurrection of the body and the life everlasting, we do.